Hey everyone, I'm here to help you with outline and when it comes to your problem solution paper and how you would go about doing that. So, when it comes to outline expectations, you need to have title, as you can see, an attention getter, a thesis. That's your topic plus your opinion. You can use your research question and you can just say, okay, what is my answer to it, or any other aspect of your note cards, and that is how you format it. And then you're going to have body paragraphs. You can choose to either write in full sentence or fragment. Make sure that you're not having question or internal citations in there. You can include your details like your note card numbers or any other ideas that you want to break down. And so when you're going through that complete sentence or that fragment, you just kind of need to know which style you're going with and you need to stick with that. And then you're going to have a reworded thesis at the very end. So I do have a video available if you have decided that problem solution maybe is not the goal that you want to for, you could also go argumentative as well. So if you look at your note cards are basically organized and helped you. That we tried to make it set up so then you don't have to worry about the cutting and piling like we did back with our first research paper. It's already somewhat piled or put together in groups accordingly already. So just kind of know that a lot of this stuff on here was there to help you in this outline process. So I'm using Zalix note card system. Her topic is school start time. Notice how she has her research question. Should middle and high schools push start times back to allow adolescent students more sleep? And then that is her position. And so with that, this could essentially be your thesis statement. You might decide, you know what, I might want to change some of the wording, or I might have changed my viewpoint after going through and researching, and that is perfectly fine. This does not need to show up necessarily. We know this is just where you started off with, but know that you can use that to help you. So on my outline, you still want to follow the same process with your information, having your first and last name, English 10, hour 1, or hour whatever it is, and then your teacher, whether it's Gritzmacher, Zalek, or myself. And then our goal is to try and have it done by May 13th. And if it doesn't work on that, remember we are flexible, but this way we can at least kind of give you some feedback, help you out. And then you also need your last name and then the page number. Then I do have my title. And remember, we're looking for creative titles, not just writing research paper or your topic. And so mine is beep beep. And then I use a colon, not hitting the snooze. And so snooze is referring to the snooze button. Then I have my attention getter. What would happen to a student's education if they got out of bed without dreading having to get up? So remember, with attention getters, you want to have something that will grab the reader's attention. Quotes work. You sitting there kind of painting a picture, imagery, explaining a situation. So I could have just explained what it would be like getting up out of bed and going to school all refreshed and rejuvenated. Another thing is if you have any really good facts or statistics, that always works as well. And so, or you could do a question. And so I did the question format. One thing we want to try and push you a little bit more with is a lot of times when people are using questions, they use the word you. Sometimes it's fine, it's not a big deal. But in this particular case, I didn't use you at all. Instead of using you, I talked about students. And that is actually 10 times better with that instead of you, because me as a reader, I'm done with my education. I'm not going to school anymore. And I'm going to school to work, but that's a little bit different. And so I'm focusing on the group that will be impacted by this, not just focusing on the reader, which is happens when you use the word you. If you're able to do that, that's great. If you need help with it, even, you can definitely talk to any peers, talk to a parent, reach out to your teacher. We're all here to help. And then I do have my thesis statement. It is a little bit different from what Zalek had written down. So I have the upper schools, middle, and high schools should move back start times in order to allow students to have the proper rest to enhance their education. Notice how you don't necessarily have to list off what all your body paragraphs are. I know a lot of people tend to do that. It's not always as necessary. My main focus, my main argument is that proper rest will enhance that education. And so that's my opinion. So with that, I do have my reworded thesis. Notice how it's a little bit different as well. Moving back start times will greatly impact middle school and high schools all across America for the better. I did the argumentative outline first, so that's why I already have that there. So next, you're going to go through that process of filling out your body paragraphs. How you do that, that's where the Roman numerals will come in. You'll want to click on this drop down menu that has, and it automatically goes to just regular numbers. We need the Roman numeral option. So once you click on that, it'll pop up. And then, so with a problem solution paper, obviously you're going to start off with what is the problem. And so you could have problem number 1, or if you want to just go back and sit here and look at what you have broken down, you can use this information as well. And so the problem are, maybe I want to use the reason schools are hesitant. I could do the science behind sleep and adolescence. You can kind of go through whatever it is that you want. I'm going to start off with the reason schools are hesitant to change start times. And so you can copy this and go back in here. You will want to paste without formatting, because otherwise it's just going to look identical to what's in the slideshow, and the slideshow is a much bigger font. You probably also highlighted accordingly. And so if you are planning on going the fragment route, so if that is the case, the fragments are only going to be your body paragraphs. They are not going to be your attention getter, your thesis, or your reworded thesis, because we need those to be complete sentences. It's really hard to kind of fragment that. But I could leave it like this, or if I want to, I can just copy and paste that in there, but then change it into a sentence a little bit more. There are a plethora of, and then we're gonna lowercase reasons, schools are hesitant to change start times. And then I would have, if I want to have specific reasons for that, remember, in order to go through things, in order to have a 1, you must have a 2. So I'm going to have at least 2 body paragraphs. It depends on how many body paragraphs you have kind of organized in your note cards. That's how many are going to show up here. So there is no concrete number. But if I want to do subcategories, and that might be an option, remember, kind of goal is to have 5 note cards about, so 5 slides, but sometimes we go a little bit over. And so if you're sitting there going, oh, I feel like that's kind of the main idea, maybe I'm just going to have some different examples. So there are a plethora of reasons schools are hesitant to change start times. So maybe it is how, accidentally, too far. It can also impact elementary schools. Then that could be one idea. Another idea could be the bus routes may become a little trickier to accomplish. And then that's all I'm going to go with. So in order to have my A, I must have a B. And so if I was just going to say it can also impact elementary schools, then it's just probably that's going to be a major issue that you're going to put in there. But this might be a big, huge, long list. Ooh, I thought of another thing. This is what happens sometimes. Extracurricular activities will have to be moved around in time-wise. It just kind of depends how many you would actually have in there. But in order to continue on, if I'm going to go back and then start a new paragraph, notice how it automatically goes to D. If you just do this decrease indent, it'll move right on back. Then I go back and say, okay, so what is going to be my next subtopic? You might go in order in which you have listed, or you might realize, oh, hey, no, I really want to use this first because this explains my problem. And these are actual solutions. So The science behind sleep and adolescence would be in the next one, because I already kind of talked about some reasons. This is going to kind of help explain the problem a little bit more. Make sure you're pasting without formatting. This, the science behind sleep and adolescence showcases the need to push back start times for middle schools and high schools. And maybe I'm just going to leave it at that. Another thing you could do, if you'd like to, you can kind of delete that. If you want to do note cards and identify which slides you're going to use in order to do those ones. Those were my 5 and 6 slides, 5 and 6. You could do that, and you don't need to, but if you want to, that is perfectly fine. Now, the problem is if you do something like that, then all of a sudden we don't have our Roman numeral. So what you could do is go back and just kind of continue on with it. Another thing you can always do is if you highlight the individual one and you go to restart numbering, you can restart it where it needs to go. And then, so you start off with your problems, kind of explaining the problem and what the issue is. And then the next step, obviously, so one thing you can do if that helps is kind of identify that these are kind of explaining problems. And then you can go into solution. Now, depending on your topic, you might have just one solution, you might have 2, you might have 3, it just is up to you. Now, one thing you want to kind of consider is the viable options. What I mean by that is just what options do you want to explain? Yes, there will be some issues involved with your explanation. You need to think about that. Think about all the sides. Why are people against it? Notice how I was kind of talking about the other side up here. It can impact elementary school. That's why people are against it. That's good. So I'm going to have some examples. There are many examples of schools with changed start times and have shown the impact it has, the positive impact it has made on education. And then you're good. And so as long as you have one solution, that's the main goal. If you have more than one, you can always keep adding more as you go. Notice how you're not writing a ton. One thing that is helpful though, if you do write in full complete sentences, what I see a lot of times people do is they make a copy of their outline when they go to start typing their paper, and then they already have their topic sentences written out, and they might change it, fine tune it a little bit, move things around depending on any feedback they get from their teacher, but it just kind of helps it all set up, and then they can go out and flush out the rest of it. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, do not hesitate to ask. We are here to help.